welcome to Regarding Change. My name is Allison Whiteacre, and each week I interview an extraordinary everyday person on a major life transition that they've gone through. We take a look at what made them make this transition, why they stepped outside of their comfort zone, the lessons that they've learned from it, and some of the bold moves that they had to make stepping into the unknown. So my guest this week is Celia Sanja Daniels. Hi, Celia.
Hi, Allison. How are you?
I'm really good. Welcome. Celia is an Asian Indian non-op trans woman of color who is an entertainer, musician, and filmmaker. As a management consultant for top Fortune 100 companies, she educates, empowers, and advocates for transgender and gender non-binary individuals in the business world. Celia brings an amazing intersectional blend of ethnicity, creativity, culture, religion, and corporate experience to her activism. How are you doing this week, Celia?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me in the show. I'm really honored. Thank you.
I'm really happy you're here. I'm really honored too. We've known each other for a while, but we haven't really spent enough time together, and COVID has certainly made the times that we do spend together much less frequent.
Right.
So what I wanted to ask you today was, what is the most significant change that has occurred in your life because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh my God. I don't know how to start, but out of my entire life, this COVID time has its ups and downs. And for me, what happened was, though I had come out to my wife several times, and I came out in 2004. She didn't understand a little bit more, and she didn't know who I was. She said, "Okay, I get it. You are trying to be in both genders, but I'm not able to understand. Can you get over it?" She was asking me if I can get rid of what I was going through, and I sincerely thought maybe I can because I'm married and I have a daughter. So it's been a while. It's been a long process since 2004. I've been trying to come out more, and I kept telling her, I've been updating her about everything I did. I said, hey, I'm involved in the community and I did a lot of things. But one thing that I did not say is I didn't tell her that I was Celia. I just told her I was just this person who loves trans community. I'm doing a lot of work, and I have this feminine persona. I go and do a lot of community service as this woman. She knows all that I do, and she says, hey, that's your thing, go ahead and do it. COVID time, what happened was I was also worried about my own health. I was, taking a lot of blood thinners, and I was literally at a point in my life where I was sitting and thinking, is something going to happen to me? If something happens to me, I don't want to go down as a person who doesn't know anything, and my wife doesn't know anything that I've done. So I sat down and I said, sweetheart, I want you to meet Celia. And she was like, who's Celia? And I said, I am Celia. She was like, oh, I was in my male gender when I was explaining to her, my birth gender, I would say. And she
What
asked me,
gender?
in my birth gender,
Bud?
my
Oh,
birth.
birth. Yes. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So my birth gender is male and my preferred gender is female. So I was explaining to her, I know I was Daniels at the time, I was telling her about my life, and she was actually surprised. And I was scared of a couple of things. One is I was also kind of looking for an apartment because I thought, what if she says, no, I cannot live with you? Things are going to be worse. And I also was wondering, how is my marriage going to work out? I was really worried about a lot of things in my life at the time. And I was scared having come out,
I bet.
and also thinking about, my daughter's future, my future, my wife's future, and all that. So I sat down and I said, you know what? You're just going to have everything today. I'm going to tell you all about Celia. And I told her everything. I told her how I feel. And this time I had a lot of information about my gender dysphoria because this COVID time had increased my gender dysphoria phenomenally. And I really
Want to
stopped talking to
explain
my
gender dysphoria for the audience? Just to
Yeah,
take a look.
absolutely. So when your gender dysphoria happens to people who are born as male and then they want to be in a preferred gender, for me it is female. female. So when you want to be in a gender that you prefer, but you're not able to, then a lot of gender dysphoria happens. Also, when you switch between genders quite often, like I do, because I'm gender fluid, you go through gender dysphoria
Hmm.
because you're not identifying and your life is not completely on a path in that gender. So you're actually going through the dysphoria that happens in the opposite gender.
Hmm.
So that is where gender dysphoria comes in.
Thank you.
And I was not able to express myself as Celia a lot of times in my home with my wife. So that's when I had to come out and tell her, sweetheart, I'm going through a lot of problems. And whenever I wanted to do it, I also felt like I didn't want my wife to know everything about me because I didn't know how she's going to take it. It's a lot of information. And coming from an Asian community, the Asian society, it's always a stigma, so much of shame, it's such a patriarchy. Being a man is so powerful. And then being a woman is hard. And being a trans woman is like literally bottom of the food chain. And I was identifying myself as a trans woman. I wouldn't give it up. And that's when it was hard for me to actually come out and tell her about Celia. And she heard everything about me. I told her all that I did in my life as Celia. And I told her that, sweetheart, there are people like me who are struggling. It's not about me. Even if you don't understand me, it's okay. But this is a real problem. And I want you to know that your husband, me, I'm going through it. And the first thing she said was, I'm so proud of you. And it just hit me, and I was like, really? I
Wow.
thought you were going to be upset with all that I'm saying. And she said, no, I understand if you have done something and you have not told me. But I totally understand now because I know it was so shameful for you to express it. But I'm so happy to know that you did something not just with your life, but you're also helping people like you. And I'm so proud of you.
That's
COVID
amazing.
was a massive change for me.
Uh-huh.
I just hugged her, and we have been more loving than ever. Then I thought to myself, since I'm a non-op trans, I'm a gender fluid person, I'm a non-op trans. To me,
Can you explain
family
what
is so
non-op?
important.
Can you
A
explain what
non-op
non-op?
trans is a person who doesn't want to do surgery. I've not medically transitioned, I've socially transitioned.
Thank you.
I've come out at my work, I have come out in the community. A lot of them know me as Celia than as Daniels, except my wife and my daughter. Even my daughter knows Celia that well. But I had not come out to my wife as Celia. I just told her I'm a trans advocate and I go as a female, but she doesn't know who Celia is.
Hmm.
So COVID brought out Celia, and that was like huge for me. And she understands everything now that I have an accepting family. She's been my advocate, and I start posting about trans people. I talk to her about these conversations, and more, I see her listening to me instead of just getting into all these preconceived ideas about trans people. And she is also learning because she was born in a different generation. My wife is also, she's also in her 50s, and I'm 51. She's 1 year younger than me. So we are born in a different generation, and my daughter's 20 right now. So she was able to understand me in 25 minutes. My wife took 17 years to understand me, and it was a constant education. She's a conservative person from India. She's a cisgender woman. She suddenly cannot accept a husband who comes out as trans, and then, it was hard for her. So for me, it was important to focus on who I am as Celia and also keep my family together and live an authentic and such a very simple and an honest life with my wife and my daughter. To me, they are more important as much as my community. But I felt like COVID has opened this beautiful pathway in my life where I can really be who I am, no matter what people say, oh, you have not transitioned, you have not done that, why don't you transition? If it's your journey to transition medically, that is your journey. For me, I don't want to do a medical transition because this is my journey.
Hmm.
And I respect people who have their own journeys. And that is what keeps us going. But I will never stop advocating for the trans community no matter what happens. because we are all in this together.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm always amazed to see that you're just here, there, and everywhere. You're always out there doing, uh, advocating for trans and non-binary folks, and I really appreciate it. So here's a question that I ask my guests from time to time, and that is one thing that used to scare you but now empowers you.
I was always worried about one thing growing up in India, being a conservative, in a conservative community, and also being a conservative Christian that I grew up as. Shame was such a big thing. And sin and shame were two huge elephant in the room kind
Mhm.
of words that was always there. And I was so afraid of this word because when you commit a sin, then shame comes with it. And I was always brought up that being a woman when you're a man is wrong because God made you as a woman. God made you as a man, and you cannot choose any other gender because you are who you are. I understand that, but I'm different too. So what's really scared me was that shame was just, I would say, empowering. I would say not. I mean, engulfing me. It was just consuming me. I would say the shame was consuming me to a point where I felt like I was always unworthy. I had a very low self-esteem. I had a lot. I mean, I was so scared of my own life. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I wanted to have I didn't want to have too many friends because I had to share the shame with them and they would know something. But after I got married, and once I started coming out, I just thought about it one day after I came out with my story in Simi Valley, in the Acorn magazine, where people just call me, "You're a man in a dress who needs medical help." And I sat in my car, and there was just one thing that struck me was you can either keep brooding about how people think about you, or you can live your life the way you are. You don't have to change a thing. And I said, you know what? I may not be a post-op trans woman. I may not be a complete full-time trans woman or whatever people say. But to me, this is my life, this is my journey, and I'm going to start leading my life. And I just started doing that. And my shame disappeared. I was
Wow.
able to go into all these places and just be who I am. You know, I don't pretend that I've solved everything. I mean, I just feel like when you're honest with yourself, the honesty just shines through you and people see you through and they are able to understand you. I don't have to tell my story to anyone. They just say, Celia, you just said two words and I totally understand how you feel. You know, so the shame that was once engulfing me and overpowering me is now empowering me. I would say that I've I've been able to work through that.
And that's beautiful because you're perfect the way you are. And
Yeah.
no, nobody else is like you, and you're not like anybody else. So it's awesome. And I'm so happy that you are the way you are. You're a powerhouse in the community. I remember when I was starting to realize that I wasn't just Allison, the freaky musician, that I was actually transgender, and in the beginning there, I was feeling a lot of that as well. And I remember speaking to somebody online about estrogen, and she said, once she realized that that was the missing link in her life, that
Mm.
she became bulletproof. And when I see you out in the community, I feel like you're embodying that kind of power and that presence, but it's wise and it's gentle as well. So,
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I had one question for you, if you don't mind.
okay.
So I know you are a musician. I've known you, and I see a lot of guitars in your room. And I've known you as a musician. And when you transitioned, how did your gender transition affect your relationship with your music? That's something I wanted to ask you.
That's a deep one. That's because because there's just my relationship with music changing, and then there's also my gender. And I think that my relationship with music started changing before I realized that I was trans.
Mm,
I'd been doing a lot of work for music for film, TV, and commercials for many years, and I got into music because I just loved it. I just had this incredible passion for it. I had a gift for it, and once I once I learned a couple of songs on guitar, I was just like, oh, this is what I'm here for. And after 35 years, well, 30 years, after about 30 years of just doing whatever I could to survive, and doing all kinds of things from producing albums to writing commercials and music for TV and film, I
mm,
got burned out on it. And I I was I wasn't doing it for fun anymore. And I only would do it when, I was going to get paid for it, and I would come into the studio, and I just got more and more sad, and I didn't really know what it was. But but one time, at the end of 2015, I got offered to score a TV show for a major network, and I just looked into my soul, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. So I
mm.
turned it down, which is something you never do if you're
Wow.
a composer.
Mhm.
And I just was like, I'm not going to create music for money until I love it again. In other words, I need to connect with that spiritual connection with creating art. And um, as I left that behind, and then I discovered life coaching, and then I just started to sort of unravel all of this stuff, I realized that I had an awful lot of ego wrapped up in music. And I mean, I noticed this even early on, like right when I first started playing. I was noticing um, that I liked the people that liked my music, and that I had a hard time, being friendly with or liking the people that didn't like my music. And so it was a very tender, um, vulnerable place for me. And I would sit down and I would play, and then I would feel my ego come up, and it's like, oh, aren't I good, or something like that. And then I would stop because I was
Mhm.
trying to retrain myself to the original joy of doing it. And so I got coaching, and I got some coach training, and then I started to um, realize that all I wanted to do with my instruments was every now and then I just wanted to sort of pick them up and play.
Mm.
And with my partner, when we're together, we're just making up songs, all the time. We almost like it's like really bad musical theater.
Yeah, I remember. I love. I play the guitar and keyboards, and I've done a lot of compositions too, and not as much as you have done because I think you've done amazing work. And
Thank you.
one thing that I found was music can never go away from your heart and soul because it speaks to you.
Hmm.
And to me, after I socially transitioned, I like to still play my music, but it's not as intense as I used to. So
Yeah,
I'm training myself to sing as Celia now, which is interesting.
I bet.
But it's really hard. I'm a tenor singer, so
Yeah,
I'm trying to coach myself to get to that point where I can hit my falsettos correctly and not missing the note. So
yeah,
it's been fun.
yeah. And you also still have that whole range that you had before as a tenor, and nobody
Mhm.
says you can't use that as well.
Right, right,
You could do
absolutely.
some great duets, Celia and Daniel duets. Yeah.
We can keep talking on and on about music and
Well, we'll do another episode where we talk about that. But for
absolutely.
now, how can people get in touch with you? Like, I'd love to put all of the advocacy that you do, but how can people reach you? What's the best way?
Yeah, I can. My handle is Celia San San Daniels, which is the meta tag that I use, and also I'm on Facebook, Celia Sandhya Daniels. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and on LinkedIn as well. So you can reach me at Celia San daniels@gmail.com if you want to email.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, I have so many contacts, and I work with Transcan Work, and I also am with the Stonewall Democratic Club of Ventura County. So
Well, thank you
it's
so
been
much.
it's been a joy talking to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to be continued, but thanks so much for coming on regarding change. And so I guess this is it for episode 5. If you made it this far and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, you might want to do that. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week. And that's it for Regarding Change. Bye.